Hello, hello, hello. I know it's been a while. It's actually, I know I promised. I'm still reeling from the fact that I was halfway through the last video, and then because I haven't done a video in a couple of days, my battery died. And I just don't like editing it. I just like just going and just flowing and everything else. So my last video did not go through. But anyway, it's been a couple of days since I've actually had my daily weekday video. So I'm going to do a couple today. Actually, tomorrow I might do it on my roof. I just moved into my new place. It's awesome. And maybe one on Sunday just to make up for it. And obviously it's going to be different environments, things like that. So today we're going to be talking about something, and I slightly talked about it. Is that English, Charles? I don't know. I always just talking to yourself. If you see me walking down the street, I'm usually just talking to myself. And the reason being is that I've noticed that happiness you can't look at something for happiness. So I used to do in relationships, I used to do it with buying things that I thought would give me happiness, or trips I would take that would give me happiness. It's like, no, you have to be happy. And when you are in that relationship, you're a little bit happier, or at least you've created it. When you buy that iPhone or that camera, or you take that trip, you're already happy. Anyway, that's just a side note. So that's something I'm working on, is self-amusement, where you see something like I ran into the revolving door, I ran into the side and then got caught, and then my drink almost spilled on me, and I dropped everything on the floor, and I'm like literally in between the turnstile, or not the turnstile, but the revolving doors and the glass door, and people couldn't come until I actually picked up the thing. So I'm literally laughing in there. Most people are like, ugh. So anyway, getting on to today's topic. Today's topic I've touched about, gosh, I gotta get that out of me. Touched on a couple of times. It's time versus money. And I've talked about it a bunch of times in other videos, but this is the time that I'm really gonna go in depth. What do you value? And a lot of people value different things, and what I was thinking as I was saying that is, when you're younger and you usually, if there's something that you lacked that other people had, you usually try and make up for that in your later years. So what do I mean by that? Most bodybuilders are short people. They're short guys, they're short girls, and the reason being is that they want to become so big that nobody picks on them ever again. In other words, they were that person, that little thin, skinny person in high school or middle school that got picked on, and then they're like, you know what? I don't ever want to be picked on again. I'm going to become a bodybuilder. And they become a bodybuilder, and you see him, you're like, this guy's massive. But then you meet him in person, you're like, short person. You know, there's not many tall bodybuilders. And by tall, I mean anything really over like 5'11". You know, I'm 6 foot with shoes on. And I don't know why I laughed so hard on that. But with me growing up, we lived a great lifestyle, and I was surrounded by so much money, like just trips everywhere, just going, and like I never looked at them in jealousy. It was amazing the way that I was actually raised. My mom always taught me, hey, listen, I understand that she never actually said this. It was just implicit. It was just you just knew it. Like, by money, I mean like these kids had Beamers when their first car, like a brand new whatever X5. I don't know, I'm just making something up. Like a BMW C series or S series, I don't know. That's actually Mercedes, I know that. But these kids grew up with so much money. They traveled everywhere. Their birthday parties were over the top. Anything they threw, like their Sweet 16, their bar mitzvahs, their communions or confirmations, it's just oodles of food and alcohol and crazy venues and all these things. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I never looked at them with jealousy. So like, it's weird when I hear people that are jealous of wealthier people. I'm like, why are you jealous of someone that's wealthier? So this has nothing to do with the actual title of the video. It's just, I just get into that rant. So let's go into time versus money. And the reason I brought it up is that I always looked at money as just an object. I never was like, oh, I need more of it. That's how I was raised. And you know, there was a lot, as I mentioned, a lot of people that had money around me, but I never was like, those people have more money. I wish I went on the trips. I was like, oh, that's awesome. You went to where? Bermuda? Then you flew out and you went to the Keys, and then you came back to New York, and then you went to Thailand or wherever. Like, that's freaking awesome. So I looked at money as something that was cool, and it was a lifestyle that I wanted. But I never looked at it with anger, and maybe that's why I came up with my mentality now, which my mentality now is that money is something that can give you the lifestyle that you want, but I wouldn't strive to get it. Okay, that sounds bad. I would not put it as the ultimate goal. Don't have money as the ultimate goal. Don't have like, I want to make $1 million, because then when you make $1 million, you're going to be like, oh, I want to make 2 million. Oh, I want to make 5 million. Someone's always going to have more money. Someone that made 10 million a year is going to run into people that made 20 million a year. Someone that made 20 million will run into someone that made 50 million. It's just, wealth is something that is accumulated, but should not be a goal. So the way that I look at time versus money is that my time is something I can never get back. And I went to a seminar, and we've all heard that cliche, money, time is money, and things like that. But I don't see it as time is money. I see time as time. Your time, what I just said is in the past. I'll never be able to get that back. So the way I look at it is take that trip, go to that seminar, and I'm not saying just spend your money. I'm saying spend it on two things. Items, or events, or activities that make you a better person. That could be healthier, that could be a seminar that is in your related industry that makes you smarter, that book, that movie, that DVD, something that, and I'm not talking about movies as in Hollywood movies, I mean like instructional videos on how to become a better negotiator. I'm looking at 2 books right now. One of them, hopefully you've heard of, is called Thinking Big. That's a huge bestseller. And the other one is actually a bigger bestseller, and that's a habit book. I forgot the Power of Habits. So you understand. So I'm more self-aware that if I can go in 2 directions momentum-wise. Like this morning, I woke up late, later than I wanted. I snoozed my alarm. I'm trying to make that a habit to not snooze my alarm. The reason being is that I look at time as something so my alarm went off at, I think, 4:45. I snoozed it. In my mind, and I implore most of you to actually try and think a little bit more on these terms, because so many people waste time. So many people just sit in line, have their headphones in. I just came from Pret a Manger, or whatever you call it. It's a coffee shop here in New York City. And I'm talking to the clerk, I'm talking to this customer, I'm having a great time, you know, and I'm not saying I'm always having a good time, but today I was in a great mood. So I'm talking to them, and I look at the line, and there's 7 people online. 6 of them have headphones. The hell are you getting out of, listen, you're sitting online, you have to sit online, don't bitch about it, do something about it, you know, acknowledge something. Listen, if you're listening to an audiobook, that's different. But acknowledge, have an appreciation. And I know it sounds woo-woo. Like, oh, have an appreciation for what? I'm waiting in line. All right, dude. Well, you're standing, you're breathing, you're alive. You know how many people yesterday wish they were in your circumstance, that they're waiting in line? Maybe they wish they were waiting in a line 4 times the length of yours. Take those headphones off. You're never going to get that time back. So I heard a quote. I was at a seminar yesterday, and I heard a quote, unbelievable quote. It was, in 5 years from now, you will be 5 years older. Accept the people you meet and the experiences you experience. Or the experiences you have. The experiences you have. Perfect example. I'm coming out of my apartment today, saw this girl, huge bag. She's like, what? I'm like, what's in the bag? Like this massive bag, almost the size of her. And I'm like, where are you going? Are you moving out? Are you know, she's like, oh, I'm going to Colorado. We ended up talking. We took the subway together. We exchanged contact information. It's like, I would not have gone and asked her, Colorado Springs. She's going on a hike. Her parents are, you know, in depth, great discussion, met a new friend, maybe gonna go out on a date with her. I don't know. But that then teed me up on the subway with her to go, and I was in Pret. I started talking with her. It's momentum. When you take the headphones out, you notice that time actually slows down just a little bit. You notice you like fully envelop the line that you're in. Money. What is money? Money is the means to buy things. They said at $78,000, your happiness, like the happiness curve when you get money, as you get more money, it hits here at 78,000 and then it just plateaus. And the reason it plateaus is because you're just buying nicer stuff. Instead of Payless shoes or Walmart shoes, you're buying Nike shoes, or you're buying whatever is a little bit more expensive than what you're buying. Or your house isn't a 2-bedroom in the area you want, it's a 2-bedroom in an area that you do want. You know, it's just a nicer thing. A home, I feel, is the most important thing that you can do. And obviously the food you eat, and the people you surround yourself with, and what you feed your mind with. But what I'm saying is that once you hit $78,000, they said the level of happiness, because up until that point, you need that money for survival. Obviously, you're not going to die without it, but survival as in you need the basic necessities, the taxes, food, raising kids. Once you hit $78,000, you plateau in your happiness because you're just buying nicer things. You're going on nicer trips. You have a nicer car. Instead of the crappy beat up 95, you have a brand new car. But is your happiness the same? You still have a vehicle. You still have a means of transportation. It's what you feel about that vehicle. It's what you feel inside looking at that vehicle. So listen, don't look at money as something that you either get jealous about, or because you know what? You could have a better life than that person that has $1 billion. Why? Because you have a family to share it with. You have friends to share it with. You have the knowledge or the health to share it with. Yeah, what if I spend my whole life accumulating $1 billion? I have $1 billion. And I have no one to share it with, or I'm too old. And I wasted my whole life, all that time to the end. And I have $1 billion, cool. I have all this money. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just going to give it away because I accumulated it and I spent all day working. You know what? Look at your time in seconds, literally in seconds. What am I doing right now? Am I doing something that's productive, that's taking me to a new level? You know, what I mean by that, it doesn't have to be a big leap. You know, I'm reading a book, it's called U Squared. It's by a gentleman in England. It's really thin and he's talking about that quantum leap, that just, whoa, that big, I look at it like Michael, I forgot his name. It's by something Olson. That's his last name is Olson. It's called The Slight Edge. Highly recommended. Unbelievable book. And it's little steps each day. I have a buddy that I play hockey with, and I got all these bumps and bruises from yesterday's game. I ended up scoring 3 goals. So one of the guys I play hockey with, unbelievable statement, he's doing really well, and he says, do something every day that makes you uncomfortable. So then you have to become comfortable in that situation. All right? So a perfect example is that I did something yesterday. I went to an event. It was an all-day event by myself. I then got up on stage, asked a question to the moderator in front of this huge audience at Lincoln Center, the Jazz. It holds, I don't know, how many people were there? Thousands, hundreds, I don't know. And I asked a question. When I got off, It was a fear. I survived. I got off stage. It was answered by Gary Vaynerchuk, one of the guys that I deeply respect more than anything because of his hustle. Got off stage. When you're in that, in a presence of just, you just walk around, you have such an ease because you just did something that you feared. You know what? That's my little step. I got up on stage, and you're thinking, oh, you just got up on stage, and my heart, I was sitting on the step before getting up, and they called me up, and my heart just immediately just started going like this, and I literally, you just talk, because I'm not used to it. My eyes glazed over, and I'm just like, ugh. But you know what? I survived it, and that's what your body wants. So today, you're going to take a big, another fear. You're going to talk to that girl that has her headphones in and is traveling to Colorado Springs, and you're going to take the subway. You're going to exchange contact information, maybe go out. You know, those are the little things every single day. So look at your time. More importantly, I look at my time more importantly than my money. You know why? Also at the seminar yesterday, and I know I'm pushing, was it 14 minutes or I can't even see it. No, 16 minutes. Is that, am I zoomed in? There we go. All right, perfect. At the seminar yesterday, the guy said he became a millionaire, lost everything because he just spent his money on, he's like, oh, I'm successful. Let me just buy really nice stuff. Like, I buy nice things, but then I pull back. I go on trips that are going to make me better in my time management, in my marketing, my social media skills, my social skills, my negotiating, whatever the case is. I go on those trips. That's where I spend my money. But he said he went down to zero, and he was in debt, and he had a family, and he had a wife, and the marriage was, he said it wasn't even a hair. If a hair had a hair, that's what it was. And from there, he then built it back up. So he now looks at his time more important than his money because he was in the trenches. He was down here, and he built it up. And he noticed that when he was down here to when he was up here, the difference was, and it's going to sound, but he said the person that you became because you saw who you were 5 years earlier, 4 years earlier, just destitute, lost your house. You have no idea how you're going to pay for anything, food, and now you're up here. And he said, yeah, it's good that there's money, but he said that's probably 4 or 5 on his list. Family, who he became. So in other words, if he ever collapses again, he knows how to build it up again. And along the way, you have to appreciate the little successes. And this is something I don't do. So look at your time, and I do this. I look at my time more importantly. When someone says, can I take up your time with a trip, an event, a dinner, drinks, a hockey game, whatever, I prioritize. I know that hockey is health, it's camaraderie, I get my anger out, I get my competitive nature out, you know, the team aspect, you know, it's just, I look at that as so many positives. If someone says, can I grab a drink with you? I'm like, all right, well, it depends. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to sit down, we're going to talk, and we're going to grab a drink. Like, alcohol, I'm trying to not go away from, but just like, I don't really need a drink to have a good time. Who am I going to go out with? What are we doing there? You know, I look at those 2 hours that I'm going to be with that person as crucial. So take back your time. Look at every second more importantly than your money. If your time, see, a lot of people, like I just rented a place, and one of my friends comes to the place and he goes, you're spending what for this? He goes, and you're renting it when? So it's October here in New York City. He's like, you're not going to be able to enjoy this until next spring. But you know what? Who's to say next spring this apartment's going to be available, because it wouldn't be. And who's to say that I was out there last night just sitting so I have a huge outdoor space. So I didn't preface that. I rented a place in a different area here in New York City on the west side. It has a huge outdoor space, and he's like, you're not going to be able to enjoy it. It's overpriced, blah, blah, blah. You know what, though? I know that when I am going to enjoy it, I'm going to entertain, which is something I've always wanted to continuously do. I've always had a place. So I look at not the money that I'm going to be spending a month. I'm looking at what I'm going to do with it. Not the money, but what I'm going to do with the thing that I'm buying, in this case, renting. I'm going to have people over, I'm going to have parties, I'm going to have dinner parties, I'm going to have Sunday football, I'm going to have barbecues, I'm going to entertain. Instead of going out, come over. Just come over. We'll barbecue at my place. You know, so you have to think of it as what you're going to get out of it instead of what the cost is. If you're going to get something out of it more than what you're going to pay, do it. All right, that's enough for the first video. My name is Charles Botensten. I'm based here in New York City. If you have any questions, Instagram is my favorite. It's down in the description. And I just like putting up cool photos and whatnot. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment. Anyway, I will talk to you guys until the next video.